Hello everybody, good evening. Welcome to JAIIB English Medium channel. I hope all of you are doing fine. Today in this particular session, we will be talking about the high yielding topics for IE and IFS, specifically for Module B. Now on Monday, we have conducted one session where we have discussed the high yielding topics for Module A, and this series will be continuing till we reach the Module D, which is the most important module. But right now, you must focus on the topics which I will be telling you in this particular session that pertain to the module B. So let's start our discussion with the most important topics. But before that, let me just remind you that we have only 75 days left for our IE and IFS examinations. Yes, you heard it right. When you talk about the February month, only 14 days are left when you start calculating from Sunday, that is 15th of Feb. Then for March, 31 days are there, and we have in April only 30 days. In March, although I have included 31 days, but all of you know that the last few days of the March month will be quite hectic. Reason being, there will be the financial closing, and that will be giving us lesser time, much more lesser as compared to what I have quoted here. But yes, to be on a safer side, what should be your strategy? To follow the high yielding topics. That is the aim of this particular video, to tell you that what topics are regularly repeated by the IIBF in the examination of JAIIB, and for that matter, whether any other topic can be asked in this particular attempt of May 2026. So when I talk about module B, it is having the direct economic concepts related to banking as the topic of your module B. That is the entire description which is given in our syllabus. Now, the banking industry, how you can relate it with the economic concepts via two things. One is the interest rate, fine, that is how we see banking along with the economics. Secondly, the monetary operations which are done by the RBI under the lens of these interest rates itself. So all the chapters won't be talking about the interrelation of economic concepts and banking, but yes, most of the discussion around the entire module B will revolve around this particular area only. So before moving on to specific topics, let me just remind you that unit number 14th, that is money supply and inflation, unit number 17th, monetary policy and fiscal policy, unit 18th, SNA, or for that matter system of national accounts and GDP concepts, plus unit 19th, that is your union budget. These are the four most important chapters, most important units you can call for the preparation of your module B in IE and IFS. Now let's move on to the actual theme of this particular video, that is the high yielding topics of module B. So chapter wise I have enlisted these topics, starting off with the unit number 12, fundamentals of economics, micro and macroeconomics, and types of economies. So unit 12 talks about the hardcore economics, fine, hardcore economics as we call it, because the concepts related to the economics as a subject we will be discussing here, not only in unit number 12th but also in your unit number 13th. So fundamentals of economics, we will be looking into the definition of economics, the three major definitions. First one being given by Adam Smith, then Alfred Marshall and Lionel Robbins. Second important topic is the types of economies. Now in types of economies, you will find that we have the capitalistic economy, we have the mixed economy, as well as the socialistic economy. And when we club capitalist and certain socialistic measures, then only we get this mixed economy, which is being portrayed, which is being adapted. The model is being adapted by most of the countries in today's world. And mostly the countries, they are following which type of economy? They are the mixed economy. Next comes the unit number 13th, supply and demand, which is just an extension of the topic, that is microeconomics. The sub categorized topic of economics as a subject being the microeconomics, we are talking about supply and demand there only. So we start our discussion with the simple idea of price fluctuation with respect to the quantity, or vice versa, that when the quantity demanded is given, how the price will rise or fall, or for that matter rising or falling of a particular price of a commodity, whether it will have a replicating impact on the quantity demanded or not. Similar thing you must understand about the quantity supplied and price as well. So the relationship between your quantity demanded and price, quantity supplied and price, it is very, very important, which is portrayed by demand and supply curve. Then we have the exceptions to the law of demand. So law of demand states what? That when the prices of a commodity they rise, the demand of that commodity falls, or vice versa. But when we have certain situation where the exception is there, that is, even if the price is increasing, the demand is also not falling. The demand indeed sometimes increases. That means what? The law of demand is no longer valid. We are talking about the exceptions which we can study using the Giffen goods as well as Veblen goods. Giffen goods, they talk about the inferior products, inferior goods. Veblen goods talk about the luxury items. Then we have unit number 14th, where the most important type of question which you can see in the exam is based on the formulas. So formula based question, yes, you can expect from this unit. Money supply and inflation, both these topics are very, very important, because ultimately measure of money supply and measure of inflation are the high yielding topics of this unit. So measure of money supply, the formula M0, M1, M2, M3, M4, very, very important. Then measure of inflation, the formula of CPI, the inflation rate, how you calculate it. GDP deflator. Then velocity of money, very, very important. Along with that, how you can interpret the ultimate cash reserve when we talk about the relationship between the reserve money and your cash reserve and the final money supply. Okay, so all these formulas are also very, very important. Next we have unit number 15th, theories of interest. Again, the students, they are often confused between the various subtopics of theories of interest, and being a vast, you can say, chapter, you will find various confusing terms as well. But what you should do, being a smart aspirant, you should focus on the low hanging fruits, the basics, like what is the difference between the classical approach and J.M. Keynes approach when we talk about the economics. What is the study involved in the ISLM curve, how the shift happens, fine, the trend of the curve. When you talk about ISLM curve, whether it will shift to left or for that matter right when the fiscal policy is changing or monetary policy is changing, when the government is infusing money, whether the IS curve will shift or the LM curve will shift. All these things you must remember, because ultimately you will find question either from the basics or for that matter Higgs-Henson theory or the ISLM curve. Next we have the business cycles. Business cycle, a very simple chapter, but again very important also. Here only two things are required. One is the phases. If you know the phases and their characteristics, you are good to go. And along with that, the journal characteristics of business cycle as well. So phases and their characteristics, and the characteristics, overall characteristics, what is being portrayed by the business cycles. So phases, we have what? Boom phase. It starts with the boom phase. Then we go on to the next phase, which is known as what? Your recession. In the boom, there will be one peak also, fine. Then recession comes. After that, prolonged recession leads to depression, and then the government will intervene and we will have the recovery path. Ultimately, we'll move towards the boom phase again. In depression, we have the trough as the lowest point. Okay, so the phases, their characteristics, the business cycles characteristics, all these are very, very important. Then comes the unit 17th, monetary and fiscal policy. From here you will see at least 4 to 5 questions on the basis of various concepts. The most important concept will be your monetary policy tools. What do we mean by repo rate? What is the reverse repo rate? How the increase or decrease of repo or reverse repo rate will impact the economy? Then what is the SDF? What do we mean by the marginal standing facility? Then what is the liquidity adjustment framework known as LAF? Also, there are certain reserve ratios, CRR and SLR, what all components are there in them. And along with that, you should also know the latest rates, the latest policy rates which are applicable in December 2025. So all these topics are very important when we talk about the unit number 17th, along with the inflation targeting, the band 4 plus minus 2%, and the MPC composition, the Monetary Policy Committee's composition, 3 members from RBI, 3 from Government of India, and what all are the important sections of your RBI Act pertaining to Monetary Policy Committee. Next is unit number 18th, where you will find good number of questions from formulas, because it has a component known as GDP concepts. In GDP concepts, you should be able to understand what do we mean by GDP, the simple definition of GDP. Along with that, the computation. You have to calculate the GDP, and specific formula which has been asked multiple times, because India follows this method only to calculate its GDP, that is the expenditure method. C plus I plus G plus X minus M. This formula you will find at least one question in every IFS examination. Then we have, apart from this, the computation of net domestic product, the GNP, the NNP, how they are related, whether depreciation is applied while calculating GNP or NNP. Then we have the national income concepts, where we will be discussing that what is the income at factor cost, what is the price, the basic price, and what is the final price which we call as the market price. Also, this chapter has the introductory part, which is SNA, System of National Accounts. This SNA framework is very important to understand in this attempt. Why? Because recently the MOSPI has released the CPI numbers with respect to the new base year, that is 2024, and that is directly one of the recommendation of your SNA framework. So do not ignore the SNA framework. Chances are really high that one question will be there in the examination pertaining to this particular topic. Then comes unit number 19th, that is union budget. Here you must know the components of budget. So we have revenue account and your capital account. Both these accounts are what? These are more or less types of accounts of your budget depending upon the time of spending. Fine. So if we have long-term spending, long-term expenditure, long-term revenue, we use the capital account. For short-term, less than 1 year, we use the revenue account. Then revenue account divided into receipt and expenditure, capital account also receipt and expenditure. Then revenue account, we have the receipt in the form of taxes and non-taxes. For your capital account, the revenue will be debt creating or non-debt creating. So these are the simple components in your union budget. But whether you will be able to understand this complicated structure or not, whether the specific component which is present in revenue account or capital account, you are able to decipher that or not, that will determine the questions which you will be able to answer in the actual examination, whether you will be able to solve those questions or not, because it is somewhat a conceptual unit. Then formulas of union budget, very important. Formula is fiscal deficit. Fine, whether you have to add the interest payments in the primary deficit or not. In fiscal deficit, what you have to subtract, all these minute details you cannot ignore. Okay, so yes, formulas are very important. In module B, entire module B, you will find good number of questions based on the formulas as well. Okay, so yes, this was it for your module B high yielding topics discussion. Now if you have any doubt, feel free to ask me in the live chat. Okay, you can ask me any kind of doubt related to your JAIIB examination in the live chat. In the meantime, let me just tell you that this is the dedicated Telegram group for your IE and IFS. You can scan the code and join this particular group. And for maximum discounts on our courses, you can apply this discount code, that is Y1003. Okay. And one more piece of information, since we are celebrating Mahashivratri, so on the JAIIB Mahapack, you will be having 3x validity and effective 82% discount. But if you want maximum discounts beyond this 82%, then you can directly apply the discount code, that is Y1003. Along with that, if you want to know more about our classes, the paid classes, you can call us on 0981 981 9247. This is the dedicated helpline number. Okay, fine. So if there are no doubts, then let's conclude the class. See you guys in the next session. Till then, goodbye everybody. Take care.